Hello, welcome to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all of the places you can find me should be linked in the description box below this video. Here on the channel you'll most often find me chatting about my adventures in all kinds of fibre related crafts, so knitting, spinning, crochet and weaving. Thank you so much for joining me. This is one of my weekly vlog chats where I just sit and waffle on about what I've been making in the last week or so. If you're new to the channel, our subscriber numbers have jumped up a little bit in the last couple of weeks, then you are most welcome here, as of course is anyone who has been here once or several hundred times before. I really do appreciate you taking some time out of your week to spend with me as I chat about what I've been making. But this week I have got knitting, spinning and weaving to chat about. It's been a while since we've had any weaving. I took my camera down to the beach this morning to try and record my intro. It's now quite a nice, mostly sunny day out there. It's still a bit cloudy every now and then, but this morning it was quite overcast, and down at the beach it was very windy, and every time I started talking the wind picked up. So I took that as a sign that the spirits of the beach wanted me just to be quiet. So I contented myself to sit and listen to the waves for a while and watch the cloud formations as they changed in the breeze. But I did take a little bit of beach footage because I know that a lot of you enjoy that, and I'll pop that in at the end. At the end of the video I'm also going to be announcing the winner of the new techniques make along, and I've already done that off camera, but as I say, I'll announce that at the end. So for the time being, let's just get on with the making, shall we? So for knitting I've got two works in progress to show you this week. The first one has been kind of my beach knitting project, and it's a sock that I started a little while ago from a lovely skein of yarn that was gifted to me by Spindle, and Spindle are also the sponsors of the giveaway, so one of you will have won a beautiful skein of yarn from the lovely Andy and Angela. They contacted me and sent me the prize package. They also included a gift of this beautiful skein of yarn for me in their Lemmy colourway. And I'm keeping my little sock project in this gorgeous bag that was gifted to me by Michelle recently. Hi Michelle, if you are watching. And you might remember that I started a patterned lace sock project with it, but I wasn't entirely happy with the way that the lace and the yarn were playing together, and I knew that that was a risk when I cast on the sock, but I wanted to give it a try. So I ripped back to the cuff and I'm just knitting a plain vanilla sock with the Lemmy colourway, and it's working up just beautifully. Gorgeous tones of yellow and grey. So I've knit the leg, I've popped in a little bit of waste yarn for an afterthought heel, and I'm working down the foot now. So not tons of progress, but I think the last time you saw this it was just the cuff. And this is my kind of on-the-go project at the moment. So if I do go out for a walk, I tend to put this project bag either in my pocket or in a bag if I've got a bag with me, and if there's an occasion to be able to sit and knit for a couple of minutes, then I'll pop this out and add a few rows. So it's steadily growing. This is still the first sock that I'm working on, so I've still got a little way to go, but as I say, the colours in this yarn are just beautiful. The yarn's lovely and soft. I'm assuming it's a merino nylon base. Let me just grab the label and tell you a little bit more about that. Does it say on here? It must do, yes. 75%, 25%, and there's 425 metres to 100 grams, and that's the Spindle logo. And as I say, the Lemmy colourway. I'm knitting these on my 2.25mm needles, which is the standard size that I use for socks. I tend to be a slightly looser knitter, so I use a 2.25 64 stitch count, and yeah, just plugging away on those. I'm using my Zing needles, which are not always my favourite because the joins aren't always the smoothest. Some pairs I've had are perfect and others are a bit snaggy, but these were the ones that I had available at the time that I cast on. I am actually working on another pair of socks, which is a test knit for the lovely Jenny of Owl About Yarn, but I completely forgot to pop her a quick message before I started recording to ask if it's okay for me to show off the progress on that sock. The design's not yet released, and I know some designers are happy for you to share progress and others prefer that you don't. So I will double check with Jenny, and then if she's okay with me to show that off, I'll do that next week. The second project that I'm working on is a big one. Living in this giant basket that I picked up at Wonderwall Wales a couple of years ago. And this is the sweater that I'm working on for James. Oops, sorry, I think I might have knocked the camera then. The pattern is the Dude sweater by Andrea Rangel, based on the sweater that Jeff Bridges wears in the Big Lebowski film. And I've made a little bit of progress. It's James's birthday tomorrow, and I picked this up a week or so ago, and I was going to push to try and get it finished for his birthday. It's made in chunky yarn, so it knits up quite quickly, but I worked on it for a couple of evenings and then lost interest again. So sadly he's not going to get his cardigan for his birthday, but I think I will try and make an effort to work on it again this week. That could be my birthday present to him. So I'm knitting this in Cascade Eco Wool, which is the yarn recommended in the pattern, and they come in these giant, great big balls. I think they're 200 grams or something. It's 100% Peruvian wool, 250 grams in a ball. So I think last time you saw this, I was nearing the top of the sweater. I've got a marker in here. I'm not sure if that does indicate where I last showed this to you. It probably does. So basically I've finished the back, so I only had an inch or so to go with that sort of shaping at the neck on the back. So it's a bit of it. I'm sitting too close to the camera to really hold it back and show you the back in its entirety. It's knit all in 1x1 rib with these colourwork panels, which this middle one, no word of a lie, is a bit of a pain. But I am getting there. So back is finished. I've got ends hanging off everywhere, and I've started the sleeves, and I'm working the sleeves not two at a time, but I am working them concurrently. So I'm doing a little bit of one and a little bit on the other. So this is sleeve number 2, we'll call this. So I've made a fair bit of progress on that, and sleeve number 1 is a little bit ahead of the game because I'm working on that middle colourwork section that I've already moaned about on the sleeve. So as you can see, I got to here on the first sleeve that I've showed you. So yeah, I'm working this middle section. So I've only got, I think, 3 or 4 rows to go to finish this panel off, and then I've got another block of the white to go. So I'm going to do that, give myself a break from the colour work, add that white sort of section, and then go and do the colourwork panel on the second sleeve. I'll also be starting to shape the top of the sleeve quite soon. So the rows are going to get shorter, so I think between the rows getting shorter and me getting past this colourwork panel, it shouldn't be too long before the sleeves are finished. There is a note on the pattern that the sleeves work out to be quite long, and I had a chat with James about that, and he said that because there are some notes in the pattern that sort of advise you to skip out a few of the rows in these sort of plain colourwork sections if you want to make the sleeve a bit shorter. But James said as it's a nice kind of big heavy winter snuggly cardigan, he'd prefer the long sleeves, and then he can just turn back the sleeves if he needs to. So yeah, that's the progress on the Dude. I kind of go in fits and starts with that project. I enjoy these kind of like plain colour block sections, no problem at all. It's 1x1 ribbing, it is knit flat, but because it's 1x1 ribbing all over, it doesn't really matter if it was knit flat or in the round because you'd still be doing knit 1 purl 1. It's just the colourwork sections that are a little bit slower, and I find them a little bit laborious. It's not the nice kind of rhythmic colour work that you get with a lot of Fair Isle patterns, where it's a few stitches in one colour, a few stitches in the other, and you're sort of constantly switching back. There's quite long stretches in the colour work charts for this, so you have to be careful to try and carry your floats, and that becomes a little bit more tricky, I think, in the 1x1 rib, because the 1x1 rib's got kind of a bigger stretch factor, just generally, than your sort of flat stocking stitch. I'm always having to pay attention to the chart because of the kind of long stretches of single colours. So yeah, those bits of the design I have to say I'm really not enjoying, but I'm plugging through it. It's a pattern that James picked, and I think it will look great once it's finished, so I need to just get over myself and get it done. I just one other tiny little bit of knitting, but shall I talk about that? Yeah, I think I'll talk about that because it will segue nicely into spinning and fibre prep. In my vlog last week I showed you a handful of mini skeins from some of the fleeces that I have been washing and prepping, and I decided to knit up a couple of those little samples into a swatch. Last Wednesday evening, my local bookstore, and we've got a really lovely independent bookstore here in Penarth where I live in South Wales, and they hosted a online event with Esther Rutter, who is the author of This Golden Fleece, which is a book about the sort of knitting history of Britain. And while we were on that kind of Zoom meet the author talk, I was knitting away on a couple of the yarn samples that I've been spinning up. So here is the little swatch that I made. As you can see, it's a 2-colour swatch, and this is the Jacob Ryland, which is the first fleece that I was sent by my dear friend Charlie to wash and process. So this is a 2-ply wheel spun little sample, and the top section is again 2-ply wheel spun, but it's the Shetland fleece that I most recently purchased. I purchased 2 Shetland fleeces, and I have recorded some video about the different fleeces and me washing and starting to prepare them, and those will come out in the coming weeks. I've got quite a bit of editing to do of that footage, and I'm going to be going back to work in my shop next week, so things in terms of video here on the YouTube channel will slow down for a little bit. Those will come soon for anyone who is interested in fleece prep. But yeah, I decided to knit these 2 up into a swatch, and I have to say I love this. I was a bit not unenthusiastic, but a bit sort of nonplussed about the mini skeins that I just spun. They were all quite textured. I'm practicing my long draw technique at the wheel. If you've watched any of those videos, I'm hand carding the fleece. It's quite a slow process, and the yarns that I'm spinning just didn't feel that consistent, but actually when they're knit up in the swatch you can definitely see that there are some sort of texturing. There's a bit of lumpy bumpiness, but I actually really love these, and they are so soft, so soft. My swatch I knit on 4.5mm needles. My 2-ply was at about a DK once I'd sort of washed it and sort of set the twist and everything. I happen to have a pair of 4.5mm needles handy, so I thought I'd give those a go to sort of like add a bit of kind of light drapiness, and I think you can see it's kind of hanging quite nicely. There's no sort of stiffness about this swatch. And I did the next to skin test because these yarns didn't particularly feel like they were the softest once I spun them. Once I washed them, they definitely softened up, and actually they're beautifully soft. I did that thing where I like shoved it in my bra and I actually forgot it was in there, and I wore it in there nearly the whole day. So perhaps I just need to make myself another swatch, and then I'll have myself a bit of a wool bikini. Don't worry, I won't go that far. You're not going to see me parading on the beach with my Swatch bikini anytime soon. So yeah, I'm really excited about these yarns now. I really like these together. I think that would make a fabulous colourwork jumper, and I even have a pattern in mind, but I don't think I'm going to get enough for a sweater quantity. The Jacob Ryland to be the main colour, that sort of dark brown colour. I'm working my way through the processing of that fleece now that I've washed it, and I feel like I'm getting quite a lot of waste, and there's quite a few sort of neppy bits and shortcuts, and the locks don't seem particularly strong. So yeah, I'm not sure how much yarn I'm going to end up with. I don't think it'll be anywhere near a sweater quantity, but anyway, things to bear in mind for the future. If I can get another fleece that's a similar sort of colour, then I would definitely love a sweater from these beautiful natural colours. I've been doing quite a lot of fibre prep, and I have a basket of Rolags here to share with you. This is more of the Jacob Ryland, and there's a bit of a gradient going on here, which is quite fun. I've got a little section of really dark stuff, and then I've got a few Rolags that are almost like a sort of silvery grey tone to them. And I'm going to try and set myself the task of prepping and spinning as much of this fleece as possible as my Tour de Fleece project. The Tour de Fleece, for any of you that aren't spinners, is an event that happens in the spinning community every year, and basically you set your own goals and you spin at the same time that the riders of the Tour de Fleece cycling race would be riding. Tour de France has actually been moved, I think, to later on in the year, and I'm not sure if there's actually going to be 2 Tour de Fleeces this year in that case, but the original dates starting this week are still in place. So yeah, this my Tour de Fleece spin slash prep project is to try and get through as much of this fleece as I can. I have got maybe a carrier bag and a bit's worth of fibre to go through. A carrier bag, sort of this kind of size. So yeah, I'm slowly carding up these and getting ready to spin them on my wheel. I've also been washing some beautiful Shetland fleece. I actually got 2 Shetland fleeces. So the yarn that you saw here was from a fawn Shetland. They're both from the same flock, and this one was sold to me as a grey fleece. And these locks are huge, so I've just grabbed one out of the the pile, and they're really, really long. I did have a go at carding up some of these, and I spun a quick sample on my drop spindle, but I haven't plied it yet. Actually, I struggled with this on my hand carders a little bit just because it was so long. So I'm wondering whether this fleece would be better for combing, but I don't have any combs, so I'm not sure whether to sort of persevere with the carding or whether to save up and get some combs and have a go with the combs. But the 2 Shetland fleeces that I've got, as I say, this is the grey one. I don't have any of the fawn to hand. It's, where is it? The fawn's downstairs. I should have grabbed the fawn, but the locks are very different, and maybe and I think that's quite characteristic of the Shetland breed. Even within the same fleece, I think you can have different sort of like lengths of the locks, because some of the Shetlands I think can be double coated. But I might do a little separate video showing the differences in the lock structures of those Shetlands that I've got and have been processing. The lovely Lisa of Soulful Spinning has just started a breed study on Shetland, and I think it's going to be going over several episodes because she's got quite a few fleeces to explore, I think. She put up a video of what I think is going to be the first part of her breed exploration this week, so I'll pop a link to that below for anyone who is interested. In terms of actual spinning, I've not sat at my wheel this week at all. I've done a little bit of drop spindling, so I'm still working away on the fibre from Nellie and Eve, which was the January Blueface Leicester fibre from their Plant Dyed Fibre Club. And I have got this bump and one more bump of a similar size left to spin for this, and I'm hoping to put this into a woven project. I'm going to keep this yarn as singles, I think, and weave with it, but yeah, I've not got too much more to go on that spin now. And the other thing that I've been spinning is on a brand new spindle. I mentioned last week that I'd purchased a few spindles, and a couple of people asked me about them, and I was going to try and do a quick video on my new spindles over the weekend, but I didn't quite get around to it. But I am working on one of them, so I thought I'd show that now. And it's a lovely spindle from Wildcraft, who are a company here in the UK, and they often have resin spindles for sale. And when they put some pictures of their latest update, I couldn't resist this one. If you've watched my channel for any length of time, you'll know a few weeks ago when we started lockdown, I recorded quite a few videos in my garden, and we have a lovely bluebell patch that was in full bloom at that time of the year. And this spindle, I think you can see, has bluebells on one side, and it's also got some cow parsley pressed into it on the other side, which is a little bit difficult to show now. I'm filling it up with fibre. But yeah, when I saw this bluebell spindle, I knew I had to have it. This spindle weighs 33 grams, if you're interested in those kind of technical details. And I'm just spinning up a fibre sample that Wildcraft very kindly sent to me, along with this spindle, and it just says English wool blend on the label. I'm spinning this up as a thicker singles. I often try, particularly with the smaller samples, to try and spin as finely as I can to maximise the meterage, the amount of yarn that I get. But this spindle and fibre combo seemed to be very happy to be spun at a slightly thicker than I would usually go for, so I'm just going for it. And as I say, I think I'm going to keep this as a singles yarn. Not much left to go, but yeah, it's been really fun. And I actually really like how the bluebells are showing up now that I'm filling that cop up, and you can see the white through the sort of transparent resin. You can really see the bluebells. It does kind of mask the cow parsley a little bit because obviously it's very matchy with the colour of the fibre. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this spin. I've just been picking it up every now and then and spinning for a minute or two. So the last thing I have to chat about quickly is some weaving. It's been a while since I've done weaving. As you know, this is completely new to me craft that I started back at the beginning of the year when I dug out a rigid heddle loom that I bought quite a few years ago in a second-hand shop here, and it had been shoved in the cupboard and not used. But I got it out, I wove a couple of projects, and then I invested in a new reed so I could spin with so that I could weave with finer yarns, and actually that was all thanks to some lovely generous donations to the channel via my Coffee link. So thank you to anyone who has been able to donate to the channel in that way. But I warped up the loom with some scraps. I started weaving with it, and it wasn't really working out exactly how I wanted or how I had envisioned it, so I kind of abandoned it, and it just sat there for ages, not seeing any love. And then a couple of weeks ago, when I'd lost my knitting mojo, I picked up the weaving again, and I just started playing around on that sort of rainbow striped warp, and I really enjoyed weaving again. And I've kind of finished messing around on that warp, and I've cut that off. And originally I was trying to make some coasters as a little experiment for using some finer weight yarns in my weaving, and I popped up a video at the end of last week, just overlaid with some music with me weaving, so you can see the rainbow warp. And my idea had been to try and make some almost like checkered coasters. So if I just hold up this bit of weaving here, so I was aiming for something a bit like this. So as you can see, if I show you the fringe at the end here, I had a rainbow warp, and then I was going to hopefully make some coasters with this kind of checkerboard effect. But my first bit of weaving was this one here, and I was beating down too hard. You couldn't really see the warp showing through it. They just became sort of solid lines of stripes. I managed a little bit better with this kind of second section, and these purpley bits are just some waste yarn. And then I just decided to do some colour play and used some leftovers just to mess around with different colours. But I carried on. I had quite a long sort of sample, so some of these I have completed. I did a black one, which sort of is a very, very muted rainbow. I did a sort of white one. As you can see, I wasn't particularly paying attention to sort of dimensions. They're all slightly different sizes. I really liked how the waist yarn, which was kind of a light lavendery purple, looked. I think that was the most effective for showing up the rainbow warp. I did a red one, and then as I was messing around and kind of trying to turn these into coasters, I figured actually I'm probably not going to use them as coasters because they're all a bit of an odd shape. Maybe I'll use one or two as coasters. So this is why this is still just in one piece, and I have this funny looking sample here where I started unpicking the waist yarn from kind of either ends of these two sort of blocks of solid colours, but I actually really quite liked that effect. So you get this kind of fringing. I'm sure there's probably some fancy weaving name for that kind of patterning. As you can tell, I know nothing about weaving, but I'm just going to leave this as a little sample because I think actually that would be quite cool in a scarf or something, to weave sections of colour and then pick some back and have these kind of open work bits in between. So yeah, rather than make these into any kind of useful object, as it were, I think I'm just going to have them hanging around as sort of some samples and some inspiration. It was kind of fun to play around with colours, and this taught me a lot about using colour with weaving, and also what some things not to do. I didn't actually do much hem stitching along the way, and that was a complete pain to go back and try and do the hem stitching. The hem stitching is kind of like the bit that finishes off the edges. So yeah, not like the most amazing weaving project that you'll ever see, for sure, but as I say, it taught me a lot about colour in particular and woven fabric. So yeah, I'm really pleased to have got back into that again. After that sample came off the loom, I immediately warped up my loom again and started a new project. I'm still in search of the perfect length of warp to get a scarf, but my loom is currently empty. I started weaving, I warped up my loom and I did an atrocious job of it. I decided to try and test my memory because it had been a while since I warped up the loom. Could I remember how to do it without looking at the instructions? Which is all well and good, but what I should have done was started the process and then check with the instructions to see how I was doing. I got the process right, there was no problem with that, but I warped up too close to the edge of my loom. So this is my reed, and I'm pulling sort of bits of yarn through these holes and slats to warp up the loom, and the instructions say to sort of start like a few slats in basically, and I didn't do that. Went straight from the edge, and it really messed up one side of the tension of the warp. And what happened, and I didn't really notice it until I'd woven a few inches, was as I was winding the warp onto the loom, I don't know if you can see here, there's kind of like this little cog here, which with this arm, and that kind of like locks your warp in place. You want that quite tight to give you nice tension, but my warp yarn had wrapped itself around this cog and had really stretched out so tightly along that edge. So I ended up with a slanted weft. So the weft is kind of like the yarn that goes horizontally across the warp fabric, the vertical fabric, and I ended up with a weft that was looking like that. And I kind of carried on for a few inches, and I thought, oh, maybe it will be okay, maybe it will right itself after I take it off and block it, it will kind of even out a bit. But the diagonal nature of my weft was getting worse and worse and worse, so last night I decided to just cut it off the loom, and I'm really glad that I did. I took a little bit of video of what the woven piece looked like, and I'll pop it in here. So I'm going to warp up again, learn my lesson, that it's all well and good to test your memory, but once you're in the swing of what you think is right, you should probably just double check the instructions before you go on your merry way. But again, not even cross, because these are all learning experiences, and if you've watched here for any length of time, you'll know that I am very much a get in and try it and learn from your mistakes kind of girl. And yes, it does mean that I make a lot of mistakes, and for me that's one of the best ways to learn. That's just how my brain likes to work. So that's everything for the making. I've just got to quickly announce the winner of the giveaway. I did use random number generator from posts 2 to 60 something, were the posts in the thread for the new techniques make along. It took me a couple of draws because I did say that I wanted to see pictures of people's progress, and there was a little bit of chatter in there where people were encouraging each other. So the first two numbers that popped up, well, actually they were both me from the beginning of the thread, replying to people, encouraging them to join in. So the third number that came up was post 42, I think. I wrote it on my hand, but it's washed off. Yeah, 42, Cat's Eye Collective, who's the lovely Kelly from Canada. Hi Kelly, if you're watching this, hopefully you are, because then you can contact me and let me know you've seen it and claim your prize. So Kelly joined in the new techniques make along with some embroidery. The picture in her post was just beautiful, this beautiful sort of floral motif. So well done Kelly, and this is the prize that I will be sending you. This is a beautiful skein of yarn, and I know that you're a new sock knitter, so this will make a glorious pair of socks. It's the 75-25 merino nylon base, or it would make just a beautiful shawl or anything you like really. 4-ply yarn from Attic Spin Dye in the Misty Wash colourway, and it's this beautiful sort of blue grey with tones of green, sort of specks of orange in there. Yeah, it's just really beautiful. And along with that is a progress keeper, a beautiful spinning wheel, and also Spot the Rainbow Zebra, a pin badge, who is and that badge is available from Attic Spin Dye, and they're raising money and awareness for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So that's your prize, Kelly. Please do get in contact with me when you see this video. And well done to anyone and everyone who joined in that new techniques cow. Well done for giving your techniques a try. I'm sorry I wasn't very present in that thread, particularly towards the end, but my lovely friend Jeanette, who has stepped in to help moderate the Yarn and Yarns Ravelry group, did a great job at keeping the chatter going towards the end there. So thank you so much for that, Jeanette. So yeah, I guess maybe just a quick bit of chatter to wind up the video. How has your week been? Hope you've been doing okay. I'm still having good days and bad days. The knitting mojo has been quite low still, but I have happily spent quite a few hours doing my fibre prep, so that has really brought me joy this last week or so. I'll be reopening my bricks and mortar yarn shop next week. The Welsh Government here last Friday announced that non-essential shops can open again from this week. So I've decided to reopen from the 1st of July on a part-time basis. Things go for a few weeks and then kind of make decisions. I'm also waiting to hear back from my landlord as to whether I've got an option to renew the lease on my building, which comes to an end at the end of August. So I'm waiting to hear on that. Generally feeling okay, still a bit lethargic and a little bit lackluster, but getting through, and kind of generally grateful that I have things to keep me occupied and busy. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who commented on last week's vlog to say that they were happy to see me back here on YouTube. That it was very heartwarming to have such a warm welcome after my short break. We should be in for quite a nice week weather-wise here in South Wales, and it's James's birthday tomorrow, so he's got a day off work, so hopefully we shall go for a nice walk and I shall get him something nice for dinner to celebrate. We obviously still can't go out anywhere or go for a meal or anything, so yeah, strange lockdown birthday celebrations, but I'm sure it'll be nice nonetheless. I'm hoping to really focus on James's cardigan this week. I want to warp up my loom again properly for my next project. And I also want to make a start on trying to join those squares for my crochet blanket, the Babette. So those are my plans for the coming week. Please let me know below how you're doing, what your plans are for the coming week, what you're working on at the moment. And as always, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for liking the videos, for subscribing to the channel. Thank you to anyone who is able to donate and support the channel via Ko-fi. And just for all of your general lovely interactions. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. Until we get to spend time together again, I hope you get to do some of the things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now. Before I share the beach footage, I just thought I'd share what's behind the camera. As I've been chatting to you, there is one sleepy cat over on the comfy chair.